all began on Thanksgiving night. I was sitting at my son's dinner table, surrounded by the smell of roasted turkey and herbs, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Don't eat anything. Trust me." At first, I thought it was a prank, but the longer I looked at my daughter-in-law Fallon's smiling face, the more uneasy I felt. My son Marcus urged me to eat, saying Fallon had made my favorite dish just for me. I tried to smile, to pretend everything was fine, but something inside me whispered that it wasn't. When my phone buzzed again, my heart nearly stopped. "Leave now. You're in danger." I didn't know what to believe, or who to trust. I just knew I had to get out of that house. The next morning, what I discovered about my so-called illness sent the police into chaos. My name is Geraldine. I'm 65 years old, and I never imagined a simple text message would change and possibly save my life. Stay with me until the end of this story and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I want to see how far my story travels. I couldn't stop staring at those messages. "Don't eat anything. Trust me." Then another one. "Leave now. You're in danger." Danger? From who? From what? Back in my small apartment, I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand. Should I call the police? What would I even say? That someone texted me not to eat Thanksgiving dinner? It sounded ridiculous, and yet my gut told me it wasn't. When I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, I barely recognized myself. Marcus was right. I looked frail, my cheeks hollow, eyes tired. When had I started looking this way? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Fallon's face, her perfect smile, the way she'd insisted I eat, her eyes following every bite. Around 3 a.m., I woke up suddenly nauseous. The room spun as I stumbled to the bathroom and leaned over the sink. I hadn't eaten much, yet my body felt poisoned from the inside out. My hands trembled as I gripped the cold porcelain, and one thought wouldn't leave my mind. What if those messages actually saved me? The next morning was worse. My head pounded. My hands shook so badly I could hardly hold a spoon. Even the sound of metal hitting the floor echoed painfully in my ears. I wrapped my robe tighter and sat at the kitchen table, trying to think clearly. Who would warn me? And why? As I sipped my tea, flashes of memory surfaced like fragments of a broken mirror. Dinner 3 weeks ago, Fallon's pot roast. I'd felt sick for days after that. Before that, the soup she brought when I was under the weather. I'd spent that night in the emergency room, but the doctor said it was probably a stomach bug. Slowly, a pattern started to form. Each time I ate something Fallon made, I got sick. Once, maybe coincidence. Twice, bad luck. But 8 times? I grabbed a notebook and began writing it down. September 15th, dinner at their house, dizzy afterward. September 28th, soup from Fallon, ER visit. October 12th, family barbecue, couldn't keep food down for 2 days. 8 incidents in 4 months. My hands shook again, not from weakness this time, but fear. Then my phone rang. Marcus. "Mom, how are you feeling this morning?" "Not great," I admitted. "Fallon feels awful," he said. "She's worried she might have made you sick somehow." "Fallon feels terrible." Her words from last night echoed in my mind. "You need to eat, Geraldine." That tone, that insistence. "Marcus," I said slowly, "have you noticed I've been getting sick more often lately?" He hesitated. "Yeah, Mom. That's why we're worried. The doctor said it's normal at your age, especially with your medications." "What medications?" I asked. There was silence on the line. Then, carefully, "Mom, you're on several, for blood pressure, your heart, and memory." My heart stopped. Memory? "Doctor, Patterson diagnosed you with early-stage memory decline 3 months ago. You've been on treatment since then. Don't you remember?" I felt cold all over. I tried to recall that conversation, that diagnosis, but it was like trying to remember a dream that faded at dawn. After the call ended, I went to my medicine cabinet. There were bottles I didn't recognize. Aricept for memory support, Seroquel, something I'd never even heard of, and higher doses of my usual prescriptions. I just stared, trying to remember when or if I'd ever agreed to these. That's when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Fallon. She stood there smiling, holding a casserole dish wrapped in foil. "Geraldine, it's me," she called sweetly. "I brought you some soup. You looked so pale last night." And for a moment, I couldn't move. I stood there frozen. Part of me wanted to open the door, to let Fallon in, to accept her kindness the way I always had. But another part, the part that had been keeping a secret list of dates and symptoms, whispered, "Don't do it." "Thank you, dear," I called through the door, "but I'm not feeling up to visitors today." "Oh, Geraldine, don't be silly," she said with a soft laugh that didn't quite reach her voice. "I'm family. Let me take care of you." There it was again, that same sharp edge I'd heard the night before. "I just need to rest," I replied, trying to sound calm. "I'm not leaving until I know you've eaten something," Fallon insisted. "Marcus is worried sick about you." Her tone wasn't concern anymore. It was control. I pressed my back against the door. If I was unwell, shouldn't she let me rest? Why was she so determined to come inside? "Fallon, I appreciate you," I said carefully, "but I really can't right now." There was a pause, and then her voice hardened. "Geraldine, open this door right now. You're being unreasonable." I froze. She'd never spoken to me that way before, or maybe she had, and I just couldn't remember. After what felt like forever, I finally heard her footsteps retreating. But when I peeked through the curtain, she was still outside, standing by her car, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing sharply as she talked. That evening, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "Check your pill bottles. Look at the labels carefully." This time, I didn't feel fear. I felt something closer to relief. Someone out there knew something was wrong. Someone was watching out for me. I went to the medicine cabinet and started reading the labels one by one. Aricept, prescribed 3 months ago. Increased blood pressure meds, 2 months ago. Caraquil, 6 weeks ago. But I couldn't remember a single one of those appointments. I couldn't remember Dr. Patterson diagnosing me with memory problems. I couldn't even remember agreeing to take any of these pills. Curious, I typed Seroquel into my phone. It was listed as an antipsychotic, a strong one, often known to cause drowsiness, confusion, and, yes, memory loss. Why would my doctor give this to me for memory support? And why couldn't I recall receiving it? As I sat in the kitchen, surrounded by pill bottles, one terrifying thought took root. What if I wasn't losing my memory naturally? What if someone was helping it along? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the table with the bottles lined up like evidence, watching the clock tick toward morning. By sunrise, I'd made a decision. Something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I was going to stop taking the new medications, the ones I didn't remember ever agreeing to. If I really was losing my mind, then it wouldn't matter. But if someone was making me believe that, I needed to find out. The first day was awful. My hands trembled, my heart raced, and I felt sick to my stomach. But by the second day, something changed. It was as if a fog had lifted from my mind. Thoughts I hadn't been able to hold on to began coming back. Sharp, clear, real. At first, they were small things. Where I'd left my glasses, what I'd eaten for breakfast 3 days ago. Then, bigger things returned. I remembered my appointment with Dr. Patterson, but not the way Marcus described it. I remembered asking why I suddenly needed so many new medications. Dr. Patterson had said Fallon was concerned, that she'd been documenting moments when I seemed forgetful. Fallon had been there that day, sitting right beside me, nodding kindly as the doctor spoke, but I also remembered feeling perfectly fine before that visit. I'd driven myself there, talked easily with the receptionist, even laughed about scheduling my next checkup, and then suddenly, this diagnosis. On the third day, another text appeared. Save samples of anything she gives you to eat. Hide them in your freezer. This time I didn't hesitate. I texted back, "Who are you?" The reply came almost instantly. "Someone who cares. Someone who's been watching. I swallowed hard. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one telling you the truth. I stared at those words for a long time. If they were telling me the truth, what did that mean about everyone else? That afternoon, Marcus called again. Mom, Dr. Patterson's office said you missed your prescription pickup. Are you okay? Oh yes, I said quickly, forcing cheer into my voice. I just got busy. I'll pick them up tomorrow. Do you want me to get them for you? He offered. Fallon said she can swing by the pharmacy. Of course she did. No, that's all right. I need to get out of the house anyway. Are you taking your medications regularly? Marcus asked, his tone cautious. Yes, dear, I lied softly. Every day. When we hung up, a chill ran through me. He'd called almost immediately after I missed that refill. How would he know that so quickly, unless someone was watching my prescriptions? That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I picked up my car keys and drove to the grocery store, alone. The night air felt cold and sharp, but freeing. For weeks, Fallon had told me not to drive, said it wasn't safe because of my condition. But behind the wheel, I felt perfectly clear. For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. At the store, I bought small plastic containers and freezer bags. If someone was going to keep bringing me food, I needed to be ready. I didn't have to wait long. The very next day, Fallon appeared again, holding another casserole dish. Geraldine, you look better, she said as I opened the door, but her smile didn't match her words. She looked disappointed. Thank you, dear. I've been resting, I replied softly. Have you been taking your medications? She asked quickly. Dr. Patterson called Marcus. He's worried you might be having an episode. An episode. That was new. I'm taking them, I said carefully. Fallon tilted her head, studying me. You seem different, more alert. The way she said it made my skin crawl, as if being alert was somehow wrong. Well, I brought your favorite, my chicken and rice casserole, she added with a cheerful tone, the one you love so much. I didn't remember ever saying I loved it. In fact, staring at the dish, I wasn't even sure I'd ever eaten it before. That's so thoughtful of you, I said. I'll just put it in your refrigerator and heat up a portion right now. Actually, I just ate, I lied, but I'll have it for dinner tonight. Her smile tightened. Geraldine, you need to eat regularly, especially with your medications. They work better with food. Without waiting for an invitation, she walked into my kitchen and opened the fridge, moving things around like she owned the place. Her movements were quick, practiced, as if she'd done it many times before. There, she said, setting the dish down. I'll heat a little for you now. You really do look thin. Fallon, I appreciate it, but I'm really not hungry, I protested. Nonsense. She was already spooning casserole onto a plate and sliding it into the microwave. As it hummed, I excused myself to the bathroom, but instead I hurried into my bedroom and texted the unknown number. She's here. She brought food. What do I do? The reply came instantly. Pretend to eat. Hide some in a napkin. Get her to leave. When I returned, Fallon had the plate ready, steaming casserole and a glass of water beside it, and next to the glass were my pills. I brought your evening medications, she said. I picked them up since you forgot. Forgot? I hadn't forgotten. I'd avoided picking them up. You didn't have to do that, I said. Of course I did, she smiled. We're family. She set the pills beside the plate. Now eat while it's hot. My heart was pounding. The food looked normal. It even smelled good. But after 3 days of clear thinking, I trusted my instincts more than appearances. I took a small bite, chewed slowly, made a satisfied sound. When Fallon turned her back to grab a napkin, I spat it into my hand and hid it in my sleeve. This is delicious, I said, taking another pretend bite. I'm glad you like it, she said. Marcus was worried you weren't eating enough. For several minutes I kept up the act, fake bites, polite conversation, until half the plate was gone. When I finally set the fork down, she handed me the pills. Now, take your medication. I'll take them after you leave, I said. They upset my stomach if I take them too soon. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Dr. Patterson said you should take them with food. I know, I smiled faintly, but my stomach's been sensitive lately. For a long moment, she just looked at me, calculating, silent. Then finally, she nodded. Well, all right, but promise me you'll take them. Of course. When she left, I exhaled shakily. Then I went straight to the kitchen. My hands trembled as I unwrapped the napkins, spooned the bits of casserole into the small containers, labeled each one with the date, and placed them carefully in the freezer. Then I flushed the pills down the toilet. That night, I didn't get sick. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No nausea, no dizziness, no fog. And when I woke the next morning, I felt clear, truly clear. And with that clarity came a terrifying thought. If someone was making me sick on purpose, if someone was altering my medication, then everything I believed about my life was a lie. The question was, how far did it go? After a week of avoiding the new medications, I felt better than I had in months. So I made a plan, one that would change everything. I was going to get the food tested. After searching online for hours, I found a private lab about 20 minutes away that offered toxicology testing. When I called, the woman on the phone was calm but direct. Ma'am, if you think someone's trying to harm you, you should contact the police. I need proof first, I said quietly. I need to know for sure. She booked an appointment for the next day. I also scheduled a checkup with a different doctor, Dr. Sarah Chen, a new name, someone outside Fallon's circle, someone I could trust to give me an honest opinion about my health. That night, just before bed, another text arrived. Be careful. She's getting suspicious. Change your routine. My hands shook as I typed back, Who are you? Please, tell me who you are. The reply came a few seconds later. I work at Dr. Patterson's office. I've been watching this happen to other patients, the text read. You're not the first. My blood ran cold. Other patients. How many other people was this happening to? Can you help me? I typed quickly. I'm trying, the reply came. But be careful. If she realizes you're not taking the medications, she might try something more direct. I barely slept that night. Every sound in my apartment felt amplified, every shadow suspicious. The next morning, I drove straight to the lab. The technician accepted the containers and promised results in 3 days. From there, I went to my new doctor, Dr. Sarah Chen. She was younger than Dr. Patterson, maybe in her 40s, with calm eyes and a confident, no-nonsense presence. She listened carefully as I explained my symptoms, my doubts about the medications, and the strange pattern of falling ill after eating food prepared by my daughter-in-law. Mrs. Hartwell, she said, I'd like to run some blood tests, but first, can you show me exactly what medications you've been taking? I handed her the bottles. She frowned immediately. This is quite a combination, she said. Seroquel is typically prescribed for mood disorders, not dementia, and this dosage of Aricept is unusually high for someone your age. Dr. Patterson said I had early-stage dementia, I explained. When was your last cognitive assessment? I hesitated. I don't think we ever did one. Dr. Chen's brow furrowed. A diagnosis like that requires multiple evaluations, memory testing, reasoning tasks, sometimes even brain imaging. It can't be based solely on a family member's observations. Family members' observations. Fallon's observations. Dr. Chen had me take a quick series of memory and logic tests right there in the office, repeating sequences, identifying images, answering current event questions. When we finished, she looked up from her notes, surprised. Mrs. Hartwell, your cognitive results are completely normal. In fact, they're above average for your age. Relief and terror washed over me at once. Relief, because my mind was fine. Terror, because that meant someone wanted me to believe it wasn't. Doctor, I asked quietly, if someone were being given medications that cause confusion and memory loss, what would happen to them? She leaned back, studying me carefully. Are you asking hypothetically? No, I said. I think someone has been drugging me. Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "Mrs. Hartwell, the mix of drugs you've been taking could absolutely cause those symptoms. Confusion, dizziness, even fainting, especially in someone who doesn't need them." "What should I do?" "First," she said firmly, "we'll run a full blood panel to see exactly what's in your system. Depending on what we find, we may need to involve the authorities." The blood draw only took 20 minutes. Dr. Chen promised to rush the tests and call me the next morning. As I drove home, my phone rang. "Marcus." "Mom," he said, his voice tense. "Dr. Patterson's office called. They said you've missed your last appointment and haven't picked up your prescriptions." "I've just been busy, dear," I said lightly. "This isn't like you. Fallon thinks you might be having another episode." There was that word again. Episode. "What kind of episode, Marcus?" A pause. "You know, like last month when you got lost driving home from the store." My heart pounded. "Marcus, I don't remember that happening." "That's exactly the problem, Mom," he said softly. "We're coming over tonight to check on you. Fallon's bringing your favorite soup." My stomach dropped. "That's not necessary," I said quickly. "We'll be there around 7, he replied and hung up. I texted my unknown contact immediately. "They're coming over tonight with food. What should I do?" The response came fast. "Don't be there. Go somewhere public. Stay away until tomorrow." But where could I go? Most of my friends had moved away years ago. Then I remembered my neighbor, Helen Chen. Not Dr. Chen. Helen, the sweet elderly woman who lived next door. I knocked on her door around 5. "Geraldine, dear, is everything all right?" I took a shaky breath. "Helen, this will sound strange, but could I stay with you tonight? I'm having a bit of family trouble." She didn't ask questions. She just opened her door wider. Around 7:15, I heard voices through the wall. Marcus and Fallon were in the hallway outside my apartment. "Where could she be?" Fallon's voice snapped. "Her car's still here." "Maybe she went for a walk," Marcus offered. "At this hour? With her condition?" Fallon hissed. They stayed for nearly an hour. I could hear the tension in Fallon's voice rising. Before they finally left, I caught one last line from Fallon's phone call in the hallway. "She's not here. No, her car's in the lot. I think she's having a serious episode. We might need to consider more drastic measures." Drastic measures. The phrase echoed in my head long after they were gone. The next morning, my phone rang again. Dr. Chen. "Mrs. Hartwell," she said urgently, "I need you to come in immediately, and you may want to contact the police." My throat went dry. "What did you find?" "Your blood work shows extremely high levels of Caraquil, Aricept, and something called Respirodone, which isn't listed on your prescriptions. Even more concerning, we detected traces of crushed sleeping medication and what appears to be ground-up antihistamines." I felt my knees give way, and I sank into a chair. "What does that mean?" "It means," Dr. Chen said quietly, "someone has been giving you a mixture of substances that would cause exactly the symptoms you've described: confusion, fatigue, nausea, and memory loss." Confusion, memory loss, dizziness, nausea. "Mrs. Hartwell," Dr. Chen said gently, "the levels in your blood are dangerous. If this had gone on much longer, you could have suffered permanent damage. Or worse." Or worse. The words echoed in my mind. In someone your age, this combination could cause organ failure, seizures, even death. Whoever's behind this isn't just trying to confuse you. They're slowly destroying your health. I hung up, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone. An hour later, the lab called with the food results. The casserole samples contained crushed Seroquel, risperidone, and several over-the-counter sleep aids. Someone had been systematically poisoning me for months, and that someone was my daughter-in-law. But why? What could Fallon possibly gain from making me sick, from making me seem confused and helpless? The answer arrived in another message from my mysterious helper. "Check your will. Check your bank accounts. She has power of attorney." Power of attorney? Heart racing, I ran to my filing cabinet and pulled out my legal papers. There it was, A document dated 3 months earlier, signed with my name in shaky handwriting I didn't remember writing. It granted Fallon full control of my finances and medical decisions if I were ever declared mentally unfit, and according to Dr. Patterson's records, I already had a diagnosis of dementia. Fallon wasn't just trying to make me sick. She was setting up a future where she owned everything I had, and if I didn't survive, that would only make it simpler for her. I called Dr. Chen immediately. "Doctor, please contact the police. I have proof. Someone has been poisoning me." 2 hours later, Detective Maria Santos arrived at my apartment. She was in her 40s with tired eyes and a calm, methodical air. She examined the food containers, the pill bottles, the documents spread across my kitchen table. "Mrs. Hartwell," she said, looking up from the toxicology report, "these are serious accusations: attempted murder, fraud, elder exploitation. We're talking about felony-level crimes." "I know how it sounds," I whispered. "My own daughter-in-law doing this to me. It sounds impossible." "Unfortunately," she said softly, "it isn't. We see cases like this more often than you'd imagine. Relatives who stand to gain financially, or who grow resentful of caregiving. The question is, are you prepared for what comes next? This will tear your family apart." I thought about Marcus, how he'd trusted Fallon, how he'd believed every word about my supposed decline. "Detective," I said quietly, "my family is already torn apart. I just didn't see it until now." Detective Santos nodded. "We'll proceed carefully. We'll need search warrants for their home and for Dr. Patterson's office, and we'll locate the person who's been messaging you. They could be a crucial witness." That evening, she called me again. "Mrs. Hartwell, we found something. Dr. Patterson is cooperating. He'd noticed irregularities in patient files but didn't realize how deep it went until now." "What kind of irregularities?" I asked. "Patients being prescribed medications based solely on family reports, power of attorney documents appearing suddenly, several elderly patients whose health deteriorated right after relatives began managing their care." My stomach turned. "How many?" "At least 6 that we know of." She paused. "Your daughter-in-law appears to be part of a broader scheme, targeting older patients to gain financial control." "But why me? I'm not wealthy." "You own your apartment. You have savings and a pension. To someone drowning in debt, that might look like a fortune." "Debt." That explained the whispered arguments, the tension in Marcus's voice when bills came up. The next morning, Marcus called. His voice was shaking. "Mom, the police came to our house yesterday. They took Fallon's computer, her papers. They said someone accused her of poisoning you." I closed my eyes. This was the conversation I'd dreaded most. "Marcus," I said gently, "please come over. Alone." "Mom, this is crazy. Fallon loves you. She's been taking care of you." "Just come, son. Please." An hour later, Marcus sat across from me at the same kitchen table where Detective Santos had spread the evidence. He looked older, exhausted, like the weight of the world was pressing down on him. "Marcus," I said softly, sliding the papers toward him, "I need you to see this." He read the toxicology results, the food reports, the power of attorney form with my forged signature. His face went pale. This can't be real." "The police found crushed pills in her desk," I said quietly. "Receipts for medication bought under false names, even online searches about how to mimic dementia symptoms." Marcus pressed his hands to his face. "But she was helping you. She was cooking for you, bringing you medicine." "She was poisoning me, Marcus," I said, my voice breaking. "For months." He shook his head in disbelief, tears welling in his eyes. "No. She loves our family. She wouldn't." I reached across the table and held his hand. "I know how hard this is to believe. I didn't want to believe it either." He looked at me, eyes red. "She kept saying we should get you more help, maybe find a care facility." And in that moment, the final piece fell into place. A care facility, where she'd have full control as my legal guardian. She wasn't planning to take care of me, she was planning to own me. Marcus pulled his hand away and began pacing. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "We're not poor, but we're not rich either." "Why would she?" "Detective Santos says you're in significant debt," I said quietly. "Credit cards. Loans." Marcus stopped mid-stride. The silence that followed told me everything. "She told me those were old debts," he said finally. "From before we got married. She said they were almost paid off." "Marcus, how much debt?" He sank back into the chair, his voice barely above a whisper. "Over 100,000, but she said she had it under control." I felt a deep, aching sadness for my son. He hadn't just been deceived. He'd been used. Just like me. That afternoon, Detective Santos called again. "Mrs. Hartwell, we've arrested your daughter-in-law," she said. "She's being charged with attempted murder, fraud, forgery, and elder abuse." "What happens now?" "She'll have a bail hearing soon, but given the evidence, I doubt she'll be released. We also found documents linking her to the other cases. This is bigger than we thought. And Dr. Patterson, he's cooperating. It seems he was manipulated as well. Your daughter-in-law provided fake records, false reports, even had people call his office pretending to be concerned neighbors." The mysterious texter was identified too, Nancy Williams, a nurse from Dr. Patterson's office. She'd noticed the strange pattern of elderly patients suddenly declining after relatives became caretakers. She'd been documenting quietly, searching for proof. When we met, she looked exhausted but relieved. "I was terrified no one would believe me," she said. "These families seemed so caring, so devoted, but the prescriptions never matched the symptoms. Nothing added up." That evening, Marcus came back to my apartment. He looked shattered. "The police showed me everything," he said quietly. "The forged power of attorney, her research on dementia symptoms, even a timeline for when you'd be declared incompetent." I sat beside him on the couch. "Marcus, I'm so sorry." "She was planning to have you institutionalized in 6 months," he whispered. "Then she was going to sell your apartment and empty your retirement accounts." He looked at me, eyes full of pain. "Mom, she was planning to let you die in a care facility." I took his hand. "But that didn't happen. I'm still here, because of one stranger who cared enough to speak up." Marcus broke down then, deep, shaking sobs of guilt and grief. "I should have protected you. I should have seen it." "She fooled everyone, Marcus," I said gently. "Even the doctor. You can't blame yourself." He nodded slowly, his face wet with tears. "Marcus," I said softly, "there's something else we need to talk about. Your marriage. What are you going to do?" He was silent for a long time. Then, quietly, "I can't stay married to someone who tried to hurt my mother. I filed for divorce yesterday." We sat together in silence, two people trying to understand how trust, once broken, leaves scars that may never fade. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom, watching Fallon stand before the judge. The confident, smiling woman who once ruled my kitchen now looked small, defeated, dressed in an orange jumpsuit with her hands cuffed behind her back. The verdict was swift. 15 years in prison for attempted murder, fraud, and abuse, plus restitution to every victim. There were 7 of us in total. 7 lives she had targeted. "Your Honor," Fallon said when given the chance to speak, "I never meant for anyone to get hurt. I was just trying to secure my family's future." The judge's tone was firm, unflinching. "Ms. Hartwell, you systematically harmed vulnerable people for financial gain. You falsified legal records, committed fraud, and nearly caused multiple deaths. The court finds no justification in your so-called effort to secure your future at the expense of others' lives." Marcus sat beside me, silent. His divorce had finalized 3 months earlier. He'd learned that Fallon had been stealing from his accounts too, using his credit cards, creating false debts. When the gavel came down, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like relief, quiet, heavy relief. After the hearing, Detective Santos approached me. "Mrs. Hartwell, I wanted you to know we've identified 3 more victims in other states. Your case helped us connect the pattern. You speaking up may have saved lives." I nodded. "Thank you, Detective." But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a survivor. The months after Fallon's arrest were a slow climb back toward normalcy. Dr. Chen helped me safely recover from the medications I'd been given. It wasn't easy, the withdrawal, the exhaustion, but day by day, my mind cleared, my strength returned. One morning, months later, I stood at my kitchen window, the same window where I'd once watched Fallon's car drive away, and felt sunlight warm my face. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt at peace. Not because justice had been served, but because I finally had my life back, and because one stranger, a nurse I'd never met, had refused to stay silent. More importantly, my mind had finally cleared. The fog that had clouded my thoughts for so long was completely gone. Memories I thought were lost came back. Confidence returned, and for the first time in years I began to trust my own instincts again. Marcus and I were rebuilding our relationship. It wasn't easy. He carried a heavy guilt for believing Fallon's lies, for not seeing what was happening. I understood, but I also needed time to forgive the fact that he'd been so willing to believe I was losing my mind. "Mom," he'd said during one of our long talks, "I kept thinking about Dad, how he changed before he died, how he got confused. I thought it was just happening to you too." "And you never asked me how I felt," I'd replied quietly. "You just accepted what Fallon told you." It was a hard truth, but one we both needed to face if we were ever going to move forward. 3 months after the trial, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I sold my apartment. "Mom, where will you go?" Marcus asked. "I'm moving to Florida. I found a small house near the beach." "But all your doctors are here. Your friends." "Marcus," I said softly, "I need a fresh start. This place holds too many memories of being sick, of being helpless. I need somewhere that's completely mine." The new house was small but bright, filled with sunlight and sea air. It had a tiny garden and neighbors who smiled and waved. The community was full of life, people who took morning walks, played cards, and joined classes together. For the first time in years, I was genuinely excited about the future. Before I moved, Nancy Williams, the nurse who had saved my life with her messages, came to see me. "I'm so proud of you," she said, sitting in my nearly empty living room. "I was terrified," I admitted. "I didn't know who to trust." "But you trusted yourself," she said, "even when everyone else told you not to. That takes incredible strength." She was right. Learning to trust myself again had been the hardest and most important part of my recovery. On my last night in the apartment, Marcus came over with Chinese takeout. We sat on the floor, eating from cartons surrounded by boxes. "I'm going to miss you," he said. "You can visit any time," I smiled. "Maybe the distance will be good for both of us." "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything." I looked at my son, this man who had also been deceived and broken, and I felt the last of my anger fade away. "Marcus," I said softly, "we both learned something important." "What's that?" "That love without vigilance can be dangerous. We have to really see the people in our lives, not just assume they have our best interests at heart." He nodded. "I promise I'll never ignore my instincts about people again." "And I promise," I said, "I'll never doubt my own perceptions again, no matter who tells me I should." A year later, I sat on my porch in Florida, watching the sun melt into the horizon. When my phone rang, I smiled. "Hi, Marcus." "Hi, Mom. How was your day?" "Oh, wonderful," I said. "I took a pottery class, had lunch with friends, and finished a good book. What about you?" "I'm doing well. I'm seeing someone. Her name is Sarah. She's a teacher, completely different from—" He stopped himself. "I'm glad," I said warmly. "You deserve to be happy. I was thinking about visiting next month, if that's okay." "I'd love that." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet glow of the sunset, surrounded by the peace of my new life. I thought about that Thanksgiving day, the first text message that had changed everything. The world had fallen apart, and then slowly, piece by piece, come back together. I thought of the other victims who had become my friends, of Dr. Chen who had believed me, and of Nancy, the stranger who had risked her job to save people she didn't even know. Most of all, I thought about how close I'd come to losing everything, and how grateful I was to still be here. The messages had stopped after Fallon's arrest, but I kept them all. Sometimes I reread them, tracing those words that had saved my life. Don't eat anything. Trust me. In the end, learning to trust myself again was the greatest gift of all. At 65, I discovered that I was stronger, wiser, and far more resilient than I'd ever imagined. I had survived betrayal, and I'd come out the other side not bitter, but free. The sky burned with streaks of orange and pink as I raised my glass of iced tea in a quiet toast to second chances, to unseen guardian angels, and to the strength that sometimes hides in the most unlikely places. For the first time in a long time, I was completely, beautifully free. And now, I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Geraldine's place? Have you ever experienced something that made you question who to trust? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a new mystery. And on your screen right now, you'll find 2 other stories that are viewer favorites, each one full of twists you won't expect. Thank you so much for watching until the end.